In the springtime, the fields are in full bloom and awash with the color of flowering tulips of every breed and description. The streets are filled with bounteous flower processions called corsos, celebrating the budding season. Like this one in Bollenstreek, which winds 25 miles merrily through Noordwijk and Haarlem.
It's a festival, once in a year. All the people come together, see the beautiful flower wagens, whatever. It's nice.
It's so nice that even this former prime minister joins in the fun.
The tulip is very important. You know, the Netherlands has really an open economy. We are very strong in export. And when you talk about the characteristics of Dutch economy, then the flower sector is extremely important. So when we have this beautiful day, it's really fantastic. It's, I think, really a good example of Dutch economy and Dutch society. And the tulip, it really belongs to Dutch society.
I finally arrive in the tulip capital of the Netherlands, Leiden, a 15th century textile city where Rembrandt was born and learned how to paint. It's where Clusius planted the first tulips in Western Europe, and it's where Holland's first university was founded, a reward granted by William of Orange for the city's bravery in battle against his Spanish Catholic oppressors. But I'm here to learn something about tulips, so I make my way to the Hortus Botanicus in Leiden University. Founded in 1590, it's the oldest botanical garden in the Netherlands, and it's where the Dutch national flower, the tulip, was first cultivated. Tulip means turban, and that gives us a clue that the flower didn't originate in Holland, but in the steppes of Central Asia, where it still grows as a wild flower. The Persians named it after the Sikh headwear that it resembled. The Turks named it tuliband, and the French and Latin intervention corrupted the name to what we affectionately call it as the tulip. The Turks have been cultivating tulips since the 10th century, although it wasn't until Suleiman the Magnificent ruled a vast Ottoman Empire 600 years later that the flower was given importance. For Suleiman reigned during a golden age of Ottoman power and grandeur, a period in time called the Tulip Age, Lale Devri in Turkish. Carolus Clusius was the first director for this garden in the late 1500s. He was credited for cultivating the tulip in Western Europe when he got bulbs from his friend, who was an ambassador for the Ottoman Empire. And thanks to the Dutch climate and its chalky sandy soil, the tulip flourished, and thus an industry was born. I chat to former curator Carla Thune, who regales me with a tale about the Dutch craze for tulips. So what was so alluring about the tulip?
The tulip was very colorful. In spring it is an exotic red flower, and when you realize what kind of flowers we have here in spring, nobody had ever seen this. In spring we have white flowering plants, blue, yellow, but a new exotic red flowering plant in spring. Everybody wanted to have that in his garden. And in April 1609, there started a very strange period, what we call the tulip fever, the tulip mania, or the tulip bulb bubble, whatever you want to call it. That was the time when very rich people wanted to have that extremely beautiful, colorful spring flowering plant and wanted to pay higher and higher and higher prices. Real skyrocketing prices for only one bulb. There are stories about selling or buying a tulip in one bulb in exchange for a recently built house on the Herengracht in Amsterdam.
So one bulb for an entire house. You know what I don't get is why people would buy something that they didn't see and they would just buy the bulbs.
Yeah. That was the main reason of speculation. You couldn't see the bulb that was in the soil. You hoped it was still there in the autumn. It could have been rotten, or just you were only sold a piece of paper with nothing in the soil.
The tulip stock market crashed in 1637 because everyone, both rich and poor, was growing tulips, and of course, they lost their unique value. dealers went bankrupt, and the government was forced to send soldiers to control the supply. But it's a love affair that has never gone away, for Holland remains the world's biggest flower exporter, a thriving business which takes place in the Aalsmeer flower auction, where $800 million worth of plants are traded each year. The flower auction itself is like a Dutch version of Wall Street, albeit contested with great propriety by local growers and wholesalers bidding for buckets as they are trolleyed into view and shown off. Only 12% of flowers will be sold to Dutch flower shops. The rest are destined for export.